The Imperial fleet arrived at the edge of the Taisong system like a storm rolling across a calm sea. 300 warships, carriers, and support vessels. It was the largest show of force the Empire had deployed in a century. The message was clear: submit or be crushed, but the humans were ready. They had known this moment was coming. Admiral Hyun stood on the bridge of the flagship Determination, watching the Imperial fleet take formation. Around him, the human defense fleet looked tiny by comparison. 60 combat vessels and maybe 100 civilian ships that had been hastily armed. David facing Goliath, except David knew he probably couldn't win. "They're hailing us," reported the communications officer. "Put them through." Empress Zilvara's image appeared on the screen. She was impressive, regal, and clearly used to being obeyed. "Admiral Hyun, I am Empress Zilvara of the Galactic Empire. I come to offer you a choice. Join the Empire peacefully, accept our protection and guidance, and prosper as part of our civilization. Or refuse and face the consequences." Hyun kept his expression neutral. "Your Majesty, we appreciate the offer. But we must decline. We value our independence too highly to surrender it." "Independence is an illusion," the Empress replied. "In this galaxy, you either join the strong or get swept aside by them. I'm offering you the chance to join voluntarily. And if we refuse, then I will be forced to make the decision for you." She paused. "Don't be foolish, Admiral. You can't win this fight?" "Maybe not," Hyun admitted, "but we can make you regret starting it." The connection cut off. For a moment, there was only silence on the bridge. Then the tactical officer called out, "Imperial fleet is advancing. They're moving into attack formation. All ships defensive positions. Execute plan scattered stars." The human ships didn't retreat and they didn't charge forward. Instead, they scattered in seemingly random directions. Some dove toward the inner planets. Others moved toward the asteroid belt. A few actually accelerated toward the Imperial fleet before veering off at the last moment. On the Imperial flagship, High Admiral Thexeral frowned. "What are they doing? This isn't a coherent defense." "It's chaos," observed one of his officers. "They're panicking." But Thalvex, who was present as an advisor despite his suspected sympathies, knew better. "No, this is deliberate. They're drawing you into a trap." "A trap? With what? They barely have any ships." Then the asteroid started exploding, not randomly but precisely. Each explosion created clouds of debris that interfered with sensors and weapons. The Imperial fleet suddenly found itself flying through a minefield that hadn't existed seconds before. They seeded the asteroids with explosives weeks ago, Thalvex realized. They're turning the terrain into a weapon. Human ships emerged from behind planets and moons, fired quick, precise strikes at Imperial vessels, then disappeared before return fire could hit them. They weren't trying to destroy the fleet. They were creating chaos, confusion, and costly delays. Ambassador Hayun had meanwhile traveled to the neutral station that served as diplomatic meeting ground. She was young for an ambassador, barely 30, but she had been chosen specifically because she was good at reading people and finding common ground. She met with Elder Privmos, an ancient philosopher from one of the Empire's founding species. He was old enough to remember when the Empire was smaller, less rigid, more open to new ideas. "Your people are fighting well," Privmos observed. "But they can't win." "We don't need to win," Hayun replied. "We just need to survive long enough for the Empire to realize this isn't worth it. The Empress doesn't back down easily. Neither do we." Hayun pulled out a data crystal. "But we're not unreasonable. We have something to offer, something that could benefit everyone." The crystal contained data on the ancient station, the one that had led to humanity's discovery. Scientists back on Taisong had been studying it intensely, and they'd made a breakthrough. The station contained prototype technology for a completely new form of faster-than-light travel, one that was safer, faster, and more efficient than anything currently in use. "We're willing to share this," Hayun explained. "Freely, not just with the Empire, but with all species. We believe technology should be shared for everyone's benefit, not hoarded for advantage." Privmos stared at the data. "Do you understand what you're offering? This could revolutionize galactic travel." "We understand. We also understand that if we keep it secret, you'll just try harder to conquer us to get it. So we're sharing it. Take it, use it. All we ask is that you leave us alone to live as we choose. The Empress will see this as weakness." "Then the Empress doesn't understand humans very well," Hayun said with a slight smile. "We don't share because we're weak. We share because we're confident enough not to need every advantage. We survived alone for 2,000 years. We'll survive longer if we have to. Back in the Taesong system, the battle was intensifying. Captain Daehyun led a squadron of fighters in a daring raid on an Imperial carrier. They didn't try to destroy it, just damaged its launch bays and disappeared into the debris. Field Commander Jamin's Special Forces team had meanwhile infiltrated an Imperial supply depot, 3 systems, away, and destroyed 6 months' worth of ammunition and fuel. The message was clear. Humans could strike anywhere, anytime. But the humans were paying a price too. Every engagement cost them ships they couldn't easily replace. Casualties were mounting. Families were losing loved ones. In the midst of battle, something unexpected happened. Civilian scientist Bowman, who had been studying the old station's technology, made a breakthrough. The faster-than-light system wasn't just more efficient, it opened possibilities for entirely new applications. Instant communication across vast distances, energy generation, even medical treatments. Bowman immediately sent the data to Dr. Minji. "We need to share this. Now, before more people die." Minji understood. She contacted President Sunhee directly. "Ma'am, we have something that could end this war, but we need to give it away." Within hours, the data was being broadcast on every frequency, to every ship, to every species in the Empire. Humans were sharing the most valuable discovery in centuries, freely asking nothing in return. The effect was immediate and profound. Ships in the Imperial fleet started questioning their orders. Why were they fighting people who were trying to help everyone? Scientists across the Empire started analyzing the data and realized its enormous potential. Politicians who had been calling for human conquest suddenly faced public opinion shifting against them. Elder Privmos took the opportunity to publish a speech that spread across the Empire like wildfire. He spoke about how the Empire had become rigid and controlling, how it had lost the innovative spirit that made it great in the first place. He pointed to humans as an example of what free, independent peoples could achieve when not bound by rigid hierarchies. "These humans survived extinction," Privmos declared. "They thrived in isolation. They developed remarkable technology and culture. And now, in their darkest hour, they choose to share their greatest discovery rather than use it as a bargaining chip. That is strength. That is confidence. That is what the Empire has forgotten." Other species within the Empire started to stir. If humans could maintain independence, why couldn't they? Demands for autonomy and self-governance began spreading across dozens of worlds. Empress Zilvara found herself facing a crisis not from outside, but from within. The attempted conquest of humanity was tearing the Empire apart. In the Taesong system, Admiral Thexeral prepared for a final assault. He didn't care about politics or philosophy. He had orders to bring humans into the Empire, and he would fulfill them. But then Thalvex did something he never thought he'd do. He defected. He stole a shuttle and flew directly to the human fleet, broadcasting on open channels so everyone could hear. "Admiral Hyun, this is Commander Thalvex. High Admiral Thexeral is planning a massive assault on Taesong Prime in 6 hours. He's going to ignore the ceasefire calls from the capital. He wants to finish this before the Empress can stop him. I'm giving you his attack plans." Thexeral was furious, but the damage was done. Every ship in both fleets heard it. More importantly, every ship now knew that even Imperial officers were questioning the war. With the attack plans in hand, Hyun prepared the perfect defense. When Thexeral's assault came, it ran into a coordinated response that turned the battle into a stalemate. Neither side could gain advantage. Ships damaged each other, but neither fleet was winning. And then it stopped. Not because one side gave up, but because Empress Zilvara herself arrived with a different kind of fleet. Diplomats, not warriors. She contacted both Hyun and Thexeral simultaneously. "This ends now. Admiral, recall your forces. Admiral Hyun, cease defensive operations. We're going to talk, and we're going to find a solution that doesn't involve more death." The meeting that followed took place on neutral ground, the ancient human station that had started everything. It seemed appropriate somehow. Empress Zilvara, President Sunhee, Ambassador Hyun, Admiral Hyun, Elder Privmos, and representatives from a dozen other species gathered in the restored conference room. "I made a mistake," the Empress admitted. And those simple words shocked everyone. Empresses didn't admit mistakes. I saw humans as either a resource to exploit or a problem to solve. The Imperial Palace was exactly as impressive as it was supposed to be. Massive crystalline towers reached toward the sky, casting rainbows across the capital city of the Vrillian homeworld. But inside those beautiful towers, ugly decisions were being made. Empress Zilvara sat on her throne, listening to Thalvex's report with increasing interest. Around her, the Imperial Council gathered. Military leaders, politicians, scientists, and advisors. Each had their own opinion about what to do with the humans. "Let me understand this correctly," the Empress said slowly. "You found an entire human civilization alive and thriving that has existed in isolation for 2,000 years. "Yes, Your Majesty," Thalvex confirmed. 6 colonized planets, hundreds of space stations, and a population of approximately 8 billion. Chancellor Krevnoth leaned forward hungrily. He was a political creature, always calculating how to gain advantage. 8 billion humans. Think of what they could offer the Empire. Their adaptability, their creativity, their fighting spirit. We could use them. Use them? Nirabeth spoke up despite protocol saying she should be silent. "They're people, not tools. They're resources," Krevnoth corrected coldly. "Resources that could strengthen the Empire. We should integrate them immediately before they become a problem." High Admiral Thexrel stood, his armor clanking. He was old, scarred from countless battles, and deeply suspicious of anything new. "I disagree with the Chancellor, but not because I care about human feelings. They're dangerous. Commander Thalvex's own report shows they've been preparing for war. They have defensive strategies specifically designed to counter superior forces. They're a threat." "A threat?" Thalvex couldn't stay quiet. "They're peaceful. They only prepare because they've learned to expect the worst. And who taught them that lesson?" Thexrel shot back. "Their own history. Humans are violent by nature. Give them time and they'll turn that violence on us." The Empress held up a hand for silence. "Dr. Nirabeth, you spent time studying them. Your assessment?" Nirabeth chose her words carefully. "Humans are neither angels nor demons. They're survivors. Yes, they can be violent when threatened, but they've also built something remarkable. A cooperative society based on mutual support rather than hierarchical control. They have things we've lost, Your Majesty. Creativity, adaptability, and a willingness to question everything. Which makes them dangerous," Thexeral insisted. "They question authority. They resist control. They'll never truly accept imperial rule." "Maybe that's a good thing," Nirabeth said quietly. "Maybe the Empire needs voices that question." The council chamber erupted in argument. Some agreed with Krevnoth that humans should be integrated by force if necessary. Others sided with Thexeral that they should be contained or eliminated. A few, mostly scientists and younger members, suggested peaceful cooperation, but they were the minority. Empress Silvara let them argue for a while, then raised her hand again. "Enough, I will consider all opinions. In the meantime, we will send observers to the Taesong system. They will gather more intelligence about human capabilities and intentions. Commander Thalvex, you will lead this mission." Thalvex felt his stomach drop. "Your Majesty, the humans trusted me. If I return with spies, then don't tell them they're spies. Tell them they're diplomats, cultural observers, scientists. Make it seem friendly. But I need accurate information before I make any decisions." It was a command, not a request. Thalvex bowed and left the chamber feeling sick. Nirabeth followed him out. "You're going to warn them, aren't you?" she asked quietly. "I have to. They deserve to know what's coming." Far away in the Taesong system, Kyung was doing his job. He was human intelligence, and right now his job was watching for threats. When the first Empire spy drones appeared on long-range sensors, he immediately notified Admiral Hyun. "They're being subtle about it," Kyung explained, showing the sensor data. "Stealth drones, positioned to monitor our communications and ship movements. They probably think we won't notice." Hyun studied the information. "How long before they realize we've detected them?" "They already know. I sent a tight beam message to each one. 'Hello, we see you. Please ask before spying on us. It's more polite.' I included a smiley face. Despite the serious situation, Hyun almost smiled. Humans had a strange sense of humor that served them well in dark times. And their response? They shut down and retreated. But more will come. This was just the first probe. They're testing us. Then we need to be ready for the real test." Hyun called an emergency meeting of the military council. General Minho spread tactical maps across the table. "Seojun, His second-in-command and the best strategic mind in the fleet had already prepared defensive scenarios. If they come in force, we can't win a straight fight, Seojun explained. But we don't need to win. We need to make them reconsider. How? Asked one of the other admirals. We make it complicated. We use the asteroid fields as natural barriers. We establish kill zones where our smaller ships have advantages. We create false targets to waste their ammunition. We hit their supply lines, not their warships. We make every kilometer they advance cost them time, resources, and patience. Captain Daehyun, who had been listening quietly, spoke up. And if that doesn't work? If they decide the cost is worth it? Then we evacuate, Hyun said grimly. We have contingency plans. Hidden colonies, emergency ships, scattered settlements. We survived extinction once. If necessary, we'll scatter again and regroup later. The room fell silent. Everyone knew what that meant, abandoning their homes, their world, everything they'd built. But they also knew it was better than extinction. Let's hope it doesn't come to that, Minho said. 3 weeks later, Thalvex returned to the Taisong system, but this time he wasn't alone. Behind his ship came a small fleet, diplomats, scientists, and cultural observers, and hidden among them more spies. Daehyun's squadron met them at the system's edge. Welcome back, Commander. We see you brought friends. Lots of friends. The Empire is interested in establishing formal relations, Thalvex explained carefully. These are peaceful observers. I'm sure some of them are, Daehyun replied dryly. Come on, the President is waiting. The meeting was tense from the start. President Sunhee greeted the delegation politely but without warmth. Commander Thalvex, your observers are welcome to visit our worlds and learn about our culture. But please tell your intelligence operatives to be less obvious. We've already identified 17 of them. Several of the diplomats shifted uncomfortably. Krevnoth's representative, a oily politician named Vextar, tried to bluster. I assure you, we're all here in good faith. Please don't insult us, Sunhee interrupted. We know why you're here. You want to decide if we're worth conquering or if we'll be too much trouble. So let's be honest with each other. Yes, we're weaker than the Empire. Yes, you could probably defeat us eventually. But the question is, at what cost? And what do you gain? Vextar seemed thrown by her directness. The Empire offers protection, resources, access to galactic trade. We don't need protection. We've survived without you for 2 millennia. We have resources, and we can trade without surrendering our independence. Sunhee's voice was calm but firm. What we're willing to offer is friendship, cultural exchange, scientific cooperation, but not submission. The Empire doesn't accept partial membership, Vextar said coldly. Then we'll remain non-members, Sunhee replied. That night, Thalvex managed to speak privately with Hyun. I'm sorry. I tried to prevent this, but the Empress wants intelligence before making decisions. We know, Hyun said. We expected it. Actually, we're using it. Using it? Your spies are gathering information about our capabilities. Good. We want them to see we're prepared. We want them to report back that conquering us would be expensive and difficult. Fear's a better deterrent than weakness. Thalvex was impressed despite himself. You're letting them spy on you deliberately? On some things, yes. On others, no. They're seeing what we want them to see. Hyun paused. The question is, what will your Empress do with that information? I don't know, Thalvex admitted. But I fear she'll see your strength as a challenge, not a reason for peace. Then we'll face that when it comes. Back on the Imperial capital, the reports were flowing in. Spy data, diplomatic observations, and analysis from dozens of sources. The picture they painted was clear. Humans were formidable, organized, and determined. Conquering them would be possible but costly. Chancellor Krevnoth read the reports with growing excitement. Don't you see? This confirms they're valuable. Their military doctrine alone could revolutionize our tactics. We must bring them into the Empire. Thexrel shook his head. These reports confirm they're dangerous. They've been isolated for 2,000 years and they've still developed strategies to counter us. Imagine what they could do with another 1,000 years. We should act now, while we still have clear superiority. Empress Zilvara listened to both arguments. In truth, she was torn. The Empire had been stable for so long, perhaps too stable. Maybe humans could bring fresh energy. Or maybe they would bring chaos. Prepare a fleet, she finally ordered. We'll go to the Taesong system in force. Not to attack, but to negotiate. But we'll negotiate from a position of strength. They need to understand that cooperation isn't optional. 3 days on Taesong Prime changed everything Thalvix thought he knew about humans. The old records showed them as violent, chaotic, and primitive. What he found was something completely different. On the morning of the 4th day, President Sun-hee herself invited them to the capital city of Saebyeok. The president was younger than Thalvix expected, maybe 50 in human years, with sharp eyes and a warm smile. She greeted them in the grand hall, but it wasn't like the cold marble chambers of the empire. This place had windows open to gardens. Birds flew through. Life existed everywhere. "Welcome," Sun-hee said simply. "I'm told you want to understand how we survived. The best way is to show you." General Minho joined them for the tour. He was tall and muscular, clearly a warrior, but he moved with calm confidence rather than aggression. "Our ancestors arrived here with 3 colony ships," he explained as they walked through the city. 2,000 people, limited supplies, and a single promise: survive at any cost. "How did you avoid destroying yourselves?" Nirabeth asked. "The records show humans were always fighting each other." Sun-hee smiled sadly. "Oh, we fought. In the early years, we almost didn't make it. But then something changed. We realized we couldn't afford the luxury of war. Every human life became precious. We had to work together or die together." They passed through a market where humans traded goods and services. Children of different skin colors played together without a second thought. Thalvix noticed something important. There were no weapons visible, no soldiers patrolling, yet everyone seemed safe. "Your crime rate?" he asked. "Low, very low," Minho answered. "When everyone knows everyone else, when community matters, people take care of each other. We're not perfect, but we try." Jiwon caught up with them, slightly out of breath. "Sorry I'm late. I was studying the Vrillian power systems. They're amazing, but also kind of wasteful. No offense." Thalvix's scales rippled with amusement. "Wasteful how? Your engines produce about 40% more heat than necessary. You're burning extra energy for no reason. I think I can show you how to fix it if you want." This was the 3rd time in 4 days that humans had casually mentioned improvements to technology the Empire considered advanced. It was starting to become embarrassing. Professor Junho joined them at the next stop, a massive library built into the side of a mountain. The old man moved slowly, but his mind was sharp. "I maintain the records of Earth," he explained. "Everything our ancestors remembered, everything they brought with them. Stories, history, culture, science. We kept it all." Inside the library, Nirabeth saw rooms full of data crystals, books, and holographic displays. "This is incredible," she breathed. "You preserved everything." "We had to," Junho said quietly. "Earth is gone. If we forgot our history, it would be like Earth never existed at all. We couldn't let that happen." He showed them recordings from before the collapse. Earth as it was, beautiful and blue. Then the warnings, the panic, the desperate escape. Many recordings ended abruptly, cut off when the collapse began. Nirabeth found herself crying, unable to stop. Even Thalvix felt his emotions stirring. "I'm sorry," Junho said gently. "I know it's hard to watch, but this is why we are what we are. We remember what we lost. It makes us value what we have." The next stop was the military command center. Minho wanted them to see something important. "Our technology isn't as advanced as yours," he admitted. "We know this. Our weapons are less powerful. Our ships are slower. But we have advantages you don't." He pulled up a tactical simulation on a massive screen. "This is a war game scenario we run for training. A superior force attacks us. Watch what happens." The simulation showed Empire ships attacking a human colony. The humans didn't meet them head-on. Instead, they scattered, used guerrilla tactics, struck from unexpected angles, and turned the environment itself into a weapon. They destroyed supply lines, disrupted communications, and wore down the larger force through attrition. After hours of simulated combat, the superior force retreated because continuing the fight wasn't worth the cost. "We can't beat you with strength," Minho explained. "But we can make victory so expensive that it's not worth pursuing. We learned this from our own history, small forces defeating large ones through intelligence and adaptation." Thalvix felt uncomfortable. "You've been planning for war with us?" "We've been planning for war with anyone," Sun-hee corrected. "We hoped you'd be friends, but we prepared in case you weren't. Hope for the best, prepare for the worst. That's how we survived." Yuna, the cultural liaison, took over the tour next. She was young and energetic, passionate about human culture. "Let me show you something that no amount of military power can replicate," she said with a mysterious smile. She took them to an art district where humans created paintings, Sculptures, music, and performances. A concert was happening in an open plaza. Hundreds of humans sat listening to musicians playing instruments that produced sounds Thalvex had never heard before. The music was complex, emotional, and beautiful. It made him feel things he couldn't quite name. "This is our real strength," Yuna explained softly. "We create. We imagine, we dream. Your empire has order and efficiency. But do you have this? Do your people make art just because it makes them feel alive?" Nirabeth thought about it. The empire had entertainment, sure, but most of it was standardized, approved, safe. Nothing like this raw expression of emotion and creativity. Later, Dr. Minji showed them the science district, laboratories filled with humans working on countless projects. "With limited resources, we had to become very good at making things work," she explained. "We couldn't waste anything. Every discovery had to matter." She showed them medical advances that could heal injuries in days instead of weeks. Agricultural techniques that produced 3 times the food with half the resources. Energy systems so efficient they produced almost no waste. Material science that created strong structures from common elements. How? Nirabeth asked, overwhelmed. "How did you advance so much with so little?" Minji shrugged. "Necessity. We didn't have the luxury of doing things the easy way. We had to be smart. We had to be creative. Every problem became a puzzle to solve, not an obstacle to overcome." As the sun set on their 4th day, President Sunhee invited the Vrylian delegation to a private dinner. The food was simple but delicious, grown in local gardens. They ate on a terrace overlooking the city, watching lights come on as darkness fell. "Tomorrow you'll leave and report to your empire," Sunhee said. It wasn't a question. "They'll ask about us. They'll want to know if we're a threat or an opportunity." "What should I tell them?" Thalvex asked honestly. "Tell them the truth. We're humans. We survived extinction through stubbornness, creativity, and cooperation. We don't want to join your empire. We've fought too hard for our independence to give it up. But we're willing to be your friends, your allies, your trading partners. We can offer you things you don't have. Fresh perspectives, new ideas, different ways of thinking." She paused, looking at each of them. "But also tell them this. If they try to force us, if they come with conquest in mind, they'll find we're much harder to kill than we look. We've died once as a species. We won't do it again. We'll fight with everything we have, and we'll make it cost more than they can imagine." The words were delivered calmly, almost kindly, but Thalvex heard the steel underneath. These humans had survived the impossible. They wouldn't surrender easily. "I'll tell them exactly that," he promised. Minho raised his glass. "Then let's drink to hope. Hope that your empire has wisdom. Hope that they see us as partners, not problems." They all raised their glasses. But as Thalvex looked at the stars above, he worried. The empire wasn't known for its wisdom. It was known for its power, its control, its need to organize everything into neat categories. Humans didn't fit in neat categories. That was going to be a problem. The next morning, as the Infinite Reach prepared to depart, Ji-Won ran up with a data crystal. "I made you a gift. Instructions for improving your engine efficiency. And also my contact information. I'd love to keep learning about your technology." As they lifted off, leaving Taesong Prime behind, Nirabeth watched the planet grow smaller. "They're going to try to conquer them, aren't they?" "The Empire." Thalvex didn't answer. He didn't need to. They both knew what was coming. The only question was whether humanity's advantages would be enough to survive what came next. 6 weeks felt like 6 months. Every day brought them closer to the coordinates, and every day the crew grew more anxious. They had studied everything about humans, watched old videos from Dead Earth, read their history and culture. But all of that was ancient. If humans still lived, they would have changed in 2,000 years of isolation. "We're approaching the coordinates now," announced the helmsman, dropping out of faster than light in 3, 2, 1. Space twisted around them, and suddenly they were somewhere new. What they saw made everyone on the bridge stop breathing. It wasn't one planet. It was 6 worlds, all orbiting a yellow star, all glowing with lights and energy signatures. Space stations dotted the system like jewels on a necklace. Ships moved between the planets, hundreds of them. This wasn't a struggling survivor colony. This was a thriving civilization. By the ancients, Nirabeth whispered, they didn't just survive. They flourished. Alarm suddenly blared across the bridge. "Commander, multiple contacts incoming. Fast attack craft, dozens of them." From behind the nearest moon, Fighters poured out like angry insects. They were smaller than Vrelian ships, more angular, and they moved with frightening speed. Within seconds, the Infinite Reach was surrounded. "Shields up! But do not fire," Thalvix commanded. "We came in peace." "We'll prove it." A communication channel opened, but it wasn't the galactic standard they expected. It was something harsh and quick, full of sounds the Vrelian translator struggled to process. Then it switched awkwardly to broken galactic standard. "Unknown vessel. You are in restricted space. Power down weapons. Explain your presence or be destroyed." The voice was human. It had to be. Thalvix felt his hearts beating faster. They were really here. Humans were really alive. "This is Commander Thalvex of the Vrelian Empire exploration vessel. We received coordinates from an ancient station at the edge of known space. We came to investigate." "We mean no harm." There was silence. The fighters maintained their positions, weapons locked on target. Then the voice spoke again, this time with more curiosity than threat. "Vrelian Empire? Never heard of it. Stay where you are. Don't move. Don't power up anything. We're sending someone to talk." One of the fighters broke formation and approached slowly. It was strange looking, all sharp edges and unusual angles, but it moved with grace. It attached itself to their docking port with a solid thunk. "They want to board us, sir," said the security officer. "Should we allow it?" Thalvix thought about it. They were surrounded by weapons. If these humans wanted them dead, they'd already be dead. Yes, but have security ready just in case. Minutes later, the airlock opened. What stepped through was both exactly what they expected and nothing like they imagined. She was human, definitely human, matching all the old records. But she wore a suit of advanced technology, carried weapons that looked both primitive and effective, and her eyes held an intelligence that had seen hardship. "I'm Dr. Minji," she said carefully in Galactic Standard, though her accent was thick. "I speak for the Taesong Union. Now explain how you found us. This system has been hidden for 2 millennia. Nirabeth stepped forward, trying to appear friendly. "We found a station, very old, very damaged. An AI woke up and gave us coordinates. It said to tell you that Earth remembers." Something changed in Minji's expression. Her jaw tightened. Her eyes became wet. "The Sentinel station. We thought it was destroyed with everything else." "You know it?" Thalvex asked gently. "Our grandparents' built it. One last warning beacon in case anyone from Earth survived the collapse." She wiped her eyes quickly. "But Earth is gone. Everyone there is gone. We're all that's left." The bridge was quiet. Even though they'd read about the Great Collapse, hearing it from someone whose ancestors lived through it made it real. "How did you escape?" Nirabeth asked softly. Minji took a breath. "Our people saw the signs early. A few ships, experimental faster-than-light drives, fled before the end. We hid here in this system, because the star's radiation made it hard to detect. We survived because we had no choice. And you built all this? 6 worlds, hundreds of ships?" Thalvex gestured at the view screen showing the system. A small smile touched Minji's face. "We're human. We're stubborn. We don't give up." She paused. "Your ship's name is Infinite Reach? You're explorers?" "Scientists and explorers, yes," confirmed Nirabeth. "Then come. See what we've built. Our leaders will want to meet you." Minji touched her communication device. "Captain Daehyun, stand down. These are guests, not enemies." The fighters pulled back, giving them space. One remained as an escort, piloted by this Captain Daehyun apparently. They were guided toward the largest planet, a blue and green world that reminded everyone of descriptions of ancient Earth. As they descended through the atmosphere, the cities came into view. They were unlike anything in the Empire. Where Vrelian cities were massive and industrial, these blended with nature. Towers grew alongside trees. Parks and gardens wound through every street. Solar collectors looked like flowers. Everything was designed to exist with the environment, not dominate it. They landed at a spaceport that was busy with activity. Humans everywhere, moving with purpose, working on ships, carrying cargo. Children played in a nearby park. Everyone looked healthy and strong. A young man approached as they exited their ship. He was nervous but excited. "Hello, I'm G1. I'm an engineer. I've been studying your ship's communication systems. They're incredible. So different from ours." His enthusiasm was infectious. Nirabeth found herself smiling despite her nervousness. "You speak Galactic Standard well. I've been learning it for the past 6 weeks, ever since our long-range sensors detected your ship approaching. Your language has fascinating mathematical structure. Jiwan spoke quickly, barely taking breaths. Oh, sorry. I talk too much when I'm excited. Dr. Minji said I should take you to meet the Admiral. They were led through the spaceport and into a building that was clearly military but didn't feel threatening. More like organized and efficient. Guards watched them but didn't point weapons. Humans stared at them with curiosity, not fear. Admiral Hyun was waiting in a conference room. He was older, gray-haired, with eyes that had seen many battles. But when he stood to greet them, his handshake was firm and genuine. "Welcome to Taesong Prime," he said in perfect galactic standard. "I apologize for the rough greeting. We've been alone for so long we sometimes forget there might be friendly faces in the galaxy." "You learned our language very quickly," Thalvex observed. Hyun smiled slightly. "We've had 6 weeks and we're very motivated learners. When your ship appeared on our sensors, we knew we had to prepare. Tell me, this Vrillian empire of yours, how large is it?" "It spans 3,000 star systems and includes 47 member species," Thalvex answered. The Admiral nodded slowly. "And in all those systems, in all those species, did you know humans still existed?" "No, we thought you were extinct." "Good. That means our hiding place worked." Hyun gestured to chairs. "Please sit. We have much to discuss. You've found us now, and that changes everything. The question is, what happens next?" Dr. Minji placed a datapad on the table. "We've prepared information about our civilization, our technology, our history. We're willing to share it. But we need to know your intentions. Are you here as friends or as conquerors?" The directness surprised Thalvex. In the Empire, such questions were wrapped in diplomacy and careful words. But he appreciated the honesty. "We're explorers and scientists. We don't conquer. The Empire isn't perfect, but it tries to be peaceful," he said carefully. "But I won't lie to you. When my superiors learn you exist, there will be questions. There will be politics. Some will want to bring you into the Empire. And if we refuse?" Hyun asked quietly. "I don't know," Thalvex admitted. "I honestly don't know." The room fell silent. Outside, the sun was setting over the human city, painting everything in gold and orange. It was beautiful and peaceful, and Thalvex realized that beauty was about to be disrupted by the reality of galactic politics. "Then we'll deal with that when it comes," Hyun finally said. "For now, you're our guests. Stay a while. Learn about us. Let us learn about you. Maybe together we can figure out how to move forward." Jiwan brightened immediately. "Does that mean I can study your ship?" "I have so many questions." Despite the tension, everyone laughed. It was a start. The bridge of the Vrillian survey vessel hummed with quiet efficiency. Commander Thalvex stood before the main viewport, his 4 eyes scanning the endless darkness of space. They had been traveling through the outer veil for 3 months now, charting systems that no one from the Empire had ever visited before. It was boring work, but someone had to do it. "Commander, we're picking up something strange," said the sensor operator, her scales shifting to a worried blue color. Thalvex turned his massive form toward her station. "Define strange." "Energy readings, sir. They don't match anything in our database. The pattern is regular, artificial. There's definitely something out there." This got the commander's attention. In his 20 years of service, strange readings usually meant one of 2 things: valuable ancient technology or dangerous anomalies. Either way, it was worth investigating. "Change course. Take us closer, but keep shields at maximum," he ordered. Dr. Nirabeth entered the bridge moments later, her tentacles carrying 3 different data tablets. As the ship's chief scientist, she loved mysteries. "I heard we found something interesting." "We're about to find out," Thalvex replied. The ship moved carefully through the dark space. As they got closer, their sensors began painting a clearer picture. What emerged from the darkness made the entire bridge crew fall silent. It was a space station, ancient and damaged, but still functioning after what must have been thousands of years. "That's impossible," Nirabeth whispered. "Look at the design. Those hull plates, that configuration. I've seen this before in old records." "What civilization built it?" Thalvex asked. The scientist's tentacles trembled slightly. "If I'm right, and I really hope I'm wrong, this is human construction." Several crew members made sounds of disbelief. Everyone knew about humans. They were one of the lost species, extinct for 2,000 years. Their home system had been destroyed in something called the Great Collapse. The Empire had records of them, studied their dead worlds, and moved on. Humans were history, nothing more. "That can't be right," Thalvex said firmly. Humans are extinct. This must be something else that just looks similar. Sir, I'm detecting power fluctuations inside the station. The sensor operator reported. Something is activating. Battle stations. Shields up, Thalvex commanded. His military training took over immediately. Ancient stations that suddenly powered up were usually bad news, but no weapons fired. Instead, lights began flickering on across the station's surface. Sections that had been dark for who knows how long suddenly glowed with pale blue energy. Then their communication systems crackled to life. Proximity alert detected. Automated systems engaging. Welcome, travelers. Please identify yourself. The voice was synthetic, clearly artificial intelligence, but it spoke in Galactic Standard, the common language of the Empire. That was strange. Humans had been gone long before Galactic Standard was developed. Nirabeth moved quickly to the communication station. This is the Vrillian research vessel Infinite Reach. We mean no harm. We're explorers from the Galactic Empire. Who are you? There was a long pause. Systems aboard the station continued powering up. More lights activated. Then the AI spoke again, but this time its tone was different, almost sad. Empire. The database shows no record of such an organization. Searching historical files. Please wait, they waited. Thalvex ordered Scout Captain Velcor to prepare a boarding team just in case. The small, quick pilot was perfect for reconnaissance missions. His team assembled in the docking bay, ready to investigate the moment they got permission. Search complete, the AI announced. You are not in the registry of known civilizations from the time of this station's deployment. Query. What year is this by Old Earth calendar? Old Earth, that confirmed it. This was definitely human technology. Nirabeth did some quick calculations. The year would be approximately 6823 by the old human counting system. Another long pause. When the AI spoke again, something in its programming seemed different, more emotional somehow. Error, that date is impossible. My chronometer indicates I have been inactive for 2,247 years. This is unprecedented. Initiating final protocol. What final protocol? Thalvex demanded. What are you doing? My creators anticipated that if I remained dormant this long, it would mean the worst had happened. I am transmitting coordinates to you now. These coordinates lead to the backup colony, the last hope of humanity. If they survived, you will find them there. If they didn't, then at least someone will know we tried. The communications console lit up with incoming data. A star chart, incredibly detailed, showing a route to a system that didn't appear on any Empire map. It was deep in uncharted space, hidden behind stellar phenomena that would make it nearly impossible to find by accident. Wait, Nirabeth called out. Tell us more. What happened? Why were you left here? But the station was already going dark again. The lights flickered and died one by one. The AI's voice came through one final time, barely a whisper. Go to them. Tell them. Earth remembers. Tell them we never forgot. Then silence. The station was dead once more, a tomb floating in the darkness. But it had given them a gift, a map to something impossible. Thalvex stared at the coordinates on his screen. Every instinct told him to report this to Empire Command and wait for orders. That was protocol. That was safe. But something else stirred in him. Something he hadn't felt in years. Curiosity. Wonder. The chance to discover something truly remarkable. Dr. Nirabeth, how long would it take us to reach these coordinates? The scientist's tentacles danced across her tablets. With our current drive system? About 6 weeks. But sir, shouldn't we report this first? We will report it, Thalvex said slowly. After we investigate. We're explorers, aren't we? This is what we do. We explore. Some of the crew exchanged uncertain looks. Going off mission without authorization could end careers. But others, especially the younger ones, leaned forward with excitement. The chance to find a living human colony, to discover that an entire species had somehow survived extinction. That was the kind of discovery that happened once in a lifetime. Helm, set course for those coordinates. Maximum speed, Thalvex ordered. Science team. I want everything we know about humans pulled from the archives. If we're really going to meet them, we need to be prepared. As the ship turned toward unknown space, Nirabeth looked at the fading station one last time. Commander, if humans really did survive out there for 2,000 years, completely alone and isolated, what do you think we're going to find? Thalvex didn't have an answer, but he knew one thing for certain. Whatever they found at those coordinates would change everything. The Empire thought it knew the galaxy. They thought they had cataloged every civilization, every species, every corner of space. They were about to learn they were wrong.